Jennifer Morrison was organizing today's schedule in her mind while preparing for the morning. She checked the calendar app on her smartphone placed on the kitchen island to confirm the time of today's important meeting. "Ava, are you ready? It's time for the bus." Her daughter's voice came from upstairs. "5 more minutes, Mom." Jennifer sighed lightly and smiled. A typical response from her 12-year-old daughter. She took a sip of her coffee and gazed at the well-maintained garden visible through the window. A spacious house in the suburbs. A successful career. A lovely daughter. This was supposed to be her life. Jennifer was a well-regarded real estate agent in the area. Her face frequently appeared in local advertisements and sold signs, and the name Morrison Estates had become a symbol of trust. Her expertise and sophisticated negotiation skills were especially valued in the luxury property market. Her eyes wandered to the family photographs decorating the kitchen wall. The image of her husband Robert caught her attention. Robert was a vice president at a major local investment bank. His work was always busy, but recently it had become extremely hectic. Late-night returns home, sudden business trips, and weekend, emergency meetings had increased. "Mom." Ava came running down the stairs, her long brown hair bouncing. "What do you think of this hairstyle?" Jennifer looked at her daughter and smiled. "It's very pretty, honey." Ava sat at the kitchen table and stirred her breakfast cereal. "Did Dad leave early again today?" Jennifer hesitated for a moment. "Yes, he seems to have a big project." In fact, Robert had left again before she woke up this morning. Last night, too, he had apparently returned after she had gone to bed. Recently, their conversations had become superficial. "Good morning, good night, how's Ava's school? How did the meeting go?" It was like obligatory small talk. "Is Martha coming today?" Ava asked. "Yes, until I get back from an important meeting. Probably around 6 o'clock, Jennifer replied. Martha Green was a trusted babysitter who had been supporting the family since Ava was little. She was a former elementary school teacher with a warm and thoughtful personality. She came a few times a week to help with Jennifer and Robert's busy schedules. "I promised to go to the library with Martha," Ava said. "I need to find materials for my science project." "That's nice," Jennifer glanced at the clock. "Well, it's time for the bus. Let's go." Ava slung her backpack over her shoulder and kissed Jennifer. "Mom, I hope your meeting goes well today." "Thank you, honey." As Jennifer watched her daughter head toward the bus stop, she hoped Ava hadn't noticed the tension that had developed between her and her husband. Upon returning to the house, she paused in front of Robert's home office. It was a place she usually didn't enter. Something felt different. The door was slightly open. Robert normally took great care to keep it locked. Driven by curiosity, she went inside. Documents were neatly arranged on the desk. That was normal. But when she looked at the trash can, she saw torn pieces of paper. She picked them up and put the fragments together to find an address of an unfamiliar apartment. Her heart started racing. The phone rang, making her jump. It was from a client. Jennifer Morrison speaking. She tried to regain her composure. "Jennifer, I'm calling for final confirmation of our meeting. Everyone is assembled for today's presentation." "Yes, of course. I'll be there in an hour." After hanging up, she looked around Robert's office. The feeling that something was wrong grew stronger. Her eyes went to a shelf displaying a small collection of valuable antiques inherited from her parents. But something was missing. The diamond necklace inherited from her grandmother was gone. "That's strange," she said to herself. "I'm sure I saw it last week." There was no time. The important presentation was key to closing this deal. She put her doubts aside, packed the documents in her briefcase, and headed for her car. Martha was scheduled to arrive at 11. Everything should be fine. Ava would come home from school and go to the library with Martha. A simple routine. Yet Jennifer felt in the back of her mind that something big was about to change. She checked her appearance in the rearview mirror. Perfect hairstyle, confident expression. But behind her eyes lurked anxiety. Once I get through today, I'll have a serious talk with Robert this weekend, she decided as she started the car. It's time to clarify what's going on. The meeting with the client would begin in an hour. Until then, she needed to put on her professional mask and set aside her personal worries. But in her mind, the mystery of the torn address paper and the missing necklace swirled. This property will be an ideal residence for many families. Jennifer continued her presentation with a confident voice. From the expressions of the executives surrounding the conference room table, she could tell her explanation was effective. This project had the potential to become the biggest deal in her career. After months of preparation, the decisive moment had finally arrived. The revised financial projections indicate a 15% return on investment within 5 years. If you look at the next slide. Her smartphone vibrated, and Jennifer stopped mid-sentence. Normally she would put her phone on silent mode during meetings, but today she was concerned about Ava and had left it set to notify her of incoming calls. Looking at the screen, she saw it was from Martha. "I apologize, may I have a moment?" She left the conference room and stood in the hallway. "Martha? What's wrong?" On the other end of the phone came not Martha's usual calm voice, but a trembling voice in a state of panic. "Jennifer, please come right away, something terrible has happened." Jennifer's heart nearly stopped. "Ava? Is she all right?" "Ava is." Martha's voice faltered. "She's physically fine. But, please, come home right away." "I'm coming now," Jennifer said. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. She returned to the conference room and apologized. "A family emergency has occurred. I need to respond immediately." The client's chief executive frowned. "Ms. Morrison, this meeting was scheduled weeks ago." "I understand. I sincerely apologize," Jennifer said while trying to hide her distress as she packed documents into her briefcase. "I'll have my assistant Sarah explain the details of today's materials. She is thoroughly familiar with this project." As she left the conference room, she worried about the impact on her career. But now, that was secondary. The tone of Martha's voice told the whole story. Something serious had happened. "Martha, Ava, respond." Jennifer called them repeatedly from the car, but there was no answer. While barely observing the speed limit, she imagined one worst-case scenario after another in her mind. A traffic accident. A fire. An intruder. She covered the route that normally took 25 minutes in just 17 minutes. She parked her car roughly in front of the house and hurried out. Seeing the front door half open, her anxiety peaked. "Martha? Ava?" she called out fearfully. Entering the living room, she stopped at the sight. Martha was sitting on the sofa, hugging Ava. Martha's face was pale, and Ava was trembling. Documents were scattered on the coffee table. "What happened?" Jennifer rushed over to them. Ava looked up. Her eyes were red and wet with tears. "Mom. I'm sorry." Her voice trembled. Jennifer knelt beside her daughter and gently stroked her hair. "What happened? Can you tell me?" Martha cleared her throat. "I'll explain. This afternoon, when Ava came home from school, she said she wanted to know when her father would be coming home," Martha began explaining quietly. "She came home earlier than usual and tried to check his computer in his office." Ava buried her face in her mother's chest, sobbing quietly. "I just wanted to see Dad's schedule." Martha continued, I was preparing to go to the library. When Ava came out of Robert's office, she was confused. She said she found something. What did she find? Jennifer asked. Her heart was pounding. Ava slowly sat up and pointed to the documents on the coffee table. I was looking at Dad's computer and found a strange folder. It said, personal, confidential. Jennifer looked at the documents. There was a familiar address, the same one that had been torn up in Robert's trash can this morning. And there was a photograph of Robert with a young woman Jennifer didn't know. They looked intimate, smiling at each other. That's not all. Ava picked up another document with trembling hands. I found this too. It was a receipt from an antique shop. A record of the sale of Jennifer's grandmother's diamond necklace. The amount was surprisingly low, less than half its true value. Then I saw this. Martha picked up another document. After Ava called me, I investigated a little myself. It was a lease agreement for an apartment in Manhattan. The tenant's name was Robert Morrison. The contract had begun 2 years ago. Mom, is Dad doing something strange? Ava's voice was small. Is Dad going to abandon us? Jennifer felt her whole body trembling with shock and anger. But she desperately tried to maintain her composure in front of her daughter. I thought I needed to call Jennifer, Martha explained. I thought this might be more than just a family matter. Jennifer took a deep breath and hugged her daughter tightly. Ava, you've done nothing wrong. You entering Dad's office was certainly against the rules, but this situation is an entirely different issue. Ava seemed slightly relieved despite the tears in her eyes. Will Dad destroy our family? Jennifer couldn't immediately answer that question. Instead, she looked at Martha. Thank you for today, Martha. I'll take care of Ava now. Martha stood up and slung her bag over her shoulder. If you need anything, please contact me anytime. I'll keep my phone close tonight. After Martha left, Jennifer examined each piece of scattered evidence one by one. The photographs, the receipt, the lease agreement. Anger, sadness, and feelings of betrayal competed in her heart. But now, Ava was the priority. Who's that woman in the photo? Ava asked timidly. Jennifer took a deep breath. I don't know. But I intend to find out. She stood up with a determined expression. Ava, listen. This is a difficult time, but we'll get through it. You and me, together. But, what about Dad? As for Dad. Jennifer chose her words carefully. There are many questions that Dad needs to answer. But for now, let's just think about you. She gathered the evidence from the table and compiled the documents into a single folder. She picked up the photograph and stared intently at the young woman's face. Mom, I'm scared, Ava said in a small voice. Jennifer turned to her daughter and knelt before her. I'm scared too, to be honest. But sometimes in life, we have to face our fears. What's important is not letting that fear stop us. She took her daughter's hand. I will protect you, Ava. No matter what happens. Outside the window, the day was beginning to wane. Robert usually returned home around 7 o'clock. The clock showed 5:30. Jennifer had time left to decide. Let's prepare dinner, she smiled at her daughter. While we do that, we'll think about how to proceed. Before heading to the kitchen, she paused for a moment and gazed at the family photograph displayed on the mantelpiece. Carol, can you talk now? After putting Ava to rest in her room upstairs, Jennifer was making a phone call in a corner of the kitchen in a low voice. There was little time left before Robert's return home. Jenny? What's wrong? Your voice sounds strange. Carol Brady's voice on the other end sounded worried. She was a friend from college days and a lawyer specializing in family law. Jennifer explained about the evidence she had discovered, the photographs, the apartment contract, and the sold family heirloom. "Jenny, this is serious," Carol said. "First, keep the evidence in a safe place. Then, you should check the bank accounts. There might be other secrets." "What should I do? Should I confront him?" "Don't say anything yet," Carol said with a determined voice. "First, we need a complete understanding of the situation. Gather as much information as possible without Robert noticing." After ending the call, Jennifer went to Ava's room. Her daughter's eyes were red and swollen, but she seemed a little calmer. "What should I do when Dad comes home?" Ava asked. "Tonight, let's act as usual. I'm not ready to talk to Dad yet." That night, Robert came home as scheduled. Dinner proceeded in a strange calmness. Ava barely spoke, Robert talked about work, and Jennifer nodded appropriately. On the surface, it was a normal family dinner, but the atmosphere was tense. Jennifer observed her husband's face. A man who didn't know that she knew everything. A man living a double life. For 12 years, she had thought she completely understood her husband, but now the person sitting in front of her felt like a stranger. After dinner, Ava retired to her room early, and Robert said he would work in his office. Jennifer went to comfort Ava and make plans for the next day. The next morning, Jennifer got up early and left the house ahead of time, citing a meeting with an important client. She met up with Carol and headed to a luxury apartment in Manhattan. "How is Robert paying for this?" Jennifer murmured. They cleverly confirmed at the front desk that apartment 1407 was Robert's apartment. When they knocked on the door, a young woman opened it, the same woman from the photograph. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. "I'm Jennifer Morrison." The woman, Amanda's face drained of color. "Morrison." At that moment, a small voice was heard from inside the room. "Mommy, who is it?" A boy, probably about 3 years old, appeared behind Amanda. He had Robert's eyes and jaw. Jennifer was frozen with shock. Amanda sent the boy back into the room and invited the two women in. "How long?" Jennifer asked. 3 years ago, Amanda answered. "I met Robert when I was working as an assistant at an investment firm." "Did he tell you that he was married?" "Of course. He told me you were separated and in the process of getting divorced." The apartment was decorated with family photographs, Robert, Amanda, and the little boy. Another family. Another life. "Hasn't he told you he's in financial trouble?" Jennifer asked. "Actually, he has been worried lately. He said some investments didn't work out." Before leaving, Jennifer asked Amanda, "Please don't tell Robert about today." Next, the antique shop. In the car, Jennifer announced the next destination. "Jenny, are you okay?" Carol asked worriedly. "Yes," Jennifer answered in a hollow voice. Can you imagine what it feels like to learn your entire life has been a lie?" They entered a high-end antique shop, Heritage Collectors. "I'm seeking information about this diamond necklace," Jennifer showed the shop owner a picture. The shop owner looked at the photo and said, "Ah, yes. A gentleman sold it last week." "Robert Morrison?" "Yes, that's right," the shop owner answered. "How much did you buy it for?" $25,000. Jennifer gave a bitter smile. "Less than half its actual value. He said he was in a hurry. Needed cash." The necklace had already been sold to another collector, but under Carol's legal pressure, the shop owner provided information about the buyer. Back in the car, Jennifer let out a long sigh. "He really seems to be in financial trouble." "We've gathered enough evidence," Carol said. "Are you ready to confront him tonight?" Jennifer returned home and checked on Ava. Martha had come to the house, and Ava was doing homework with her. "Martha, thank you for today," Jennifer said. How did it go? Martha asked in a low voice. It's worse than I thought, Jennifer answered honestly. But I'm going to take action now. Martha squeezed her hand. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Jennifer approached Ava. Honey, tonight I need to have an adult conversation with Dad. Could you go to bed a little early? Ava saw her mother's expression and sensed the seriousness. Okay, Mom. That evening, when Robert returned home, Jennifer was sitting on the living room sofa. The evidence she had gathered was spread out on the table. What are you doing? Robert asked as he approached from the entrance. Sit down, Robert. Jennifer's voice was calm but trembling. He sat on the sofa and looked at the documents on the table. She could see the color draining from his face. I can explain, he immediately said. Really? Jennifer picked up the photograph. Can you explain this? A lovely family photo with Amanda and your son. Robert fell silent. I met them today, she continued. She believed you were separated from me and in the process of getting divorced. For 3 years. Jenny, listen. And this, she picked up the receipt. You sold Grandma's necklace for less than half its value. Why? Robert held his head in his hands. I failed in an investment, he finally admitted. I have a lot of debt. I couldn't tell anyone. So instead you sold our memories. And led a double life, creating another family. It wasn't like that at first, he tried to explain. Amanda was, it was supposed to be a temporary relationship. But she got pregnant and you continued to lie. To me, to her. I was afraid of losing everything, he said in a small voice. Now, you have lost everything, Jennifer stood up. I want you to leave tonight. Jenny, please. Let's talk. Somehow find a solution. A solution? She showed an expression of disbelief. 12 years of marriage, Robert. 12 years. And for 3 years, you've been living with another family, another life. All while making sure I didn't notice anything. What about Ava? He asked. How do you plan to explain this to her? She knows, Jennifer answered. She found the evidence in your study. That's how this all started. Robert looked devastated. Let me talk to her. Not tonight. She's hurt by your betrayal. She needs time. He looked silently around the room. I'll pack my things, he finally said. Carol will contact you. She's my lawyer. Robert stared at Jennifer. I've ruined everything. I'm truly sorry. Jennifer ignored him and looked out the window. Be gone by tomorrow morning. That night, Jennifer listened from upstairs to the sounds of Robert packing his things. 12 years of marriage were coming to an end. But strangely, she also felt a sense of relief. By knowing the truth, she had taken a step toward a new beginning. We'll be okay, she told herself as she gazed at the door to Ava's bedroom. No matter what happens, we'll be together. Morning light filtered through the gaps in the curtains, illuminating Jennifer's face. She opened her eyes, momentarily wishing it had all been a nightmare. But the empty space in the bed beside her reminded her of reality. Last night, Robert had left. He had departed quietly. His last words were left in the form of a note. I'm sorry. Please give me time. I want to see Ava. Jennifer read the note and gave a bitter smile. Time. After he had led a double life for 3 years without giving her any opportunity. She got out of bed and went to Ava's room. Her daughter was still asleep. Jennifer gently stroked her hair and quietly left the room. While making morning coffee in the kitchen, Jennifer made plans for today. First, contact Carol to start divorce proceedings. Next, arrange counseling sessions for Ava. And she thought perhaps she herself might need psychological support too. The phone rang. It was from Carol. "Good morning, Jenny. How did it go last night?" "He left," Jennifer answered concisely. "He didn't resist much." Faced with the evidence, there was no way to make excuses. "Good. Let's move on to the next step. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" "Yes, after I take Ava to school." As she hung up, she heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Ava appeared with an anxious expression. "Dad?" she asked in a small voice. Jennifer took a deep breath. "Dad is going to live somewhere else for a while." Ava nodded. No words were necessary. She understood in her own way the gravity of last night's events. "School?" Jennifer asked gently. "I don't want to go," Ava replied. "I understand. Let's spend the day together." They had breakfast, then went for a walk in the park. During the quiet walk, Jennifer gave Ava an age-appropriate explanation. "Mom and Dad can no longer live together. This isn't your fault. It's an issue between adults." "Will I never see Dad again?" Ava asked. "No, nothing like that. Dad loves you and wants to see you. But we all need some time. All of us." Ava nodded silently. Despite being a child, she sensed the complexity of the situation. In the afternoon, Jennifer left Ava with Martha and went to Carol's office. "I'll explain the legal process from here on," Carol said as she opened a file. "First, we need to investigate Robert's hidden assets." "He said he failed in an investment," Jennifer said. "But I don't know how much debt he has. That's the problem. We need to verify whether he's telling the truth." While going through the documents, Carol noticed some information. "Wait a minute, is this his company's investment records? Where did you get this?" "It was in his office. Along with the other documents." Carol examined the documents in detail. "This is not good. This isn't just an investment failure. There are signs that he's been misappropriating company funds." Jennifer asked with an expression of disbelief, "What does that mean?" "He may have been using company money for personal investments." "This is a criminal act, Jenny." That evening, Jennifer was trying to deal with the new shock. Her husband was not only an unfaithful man but also a criminal. The phone rang. It was from Robert. "Can I talk to Ava?" he asked. "Not now," Jennifer answered coldly. "She's still confused. And we have things to discuss." "I know, Jenny. I'm really sorry." "Were you misappropriating company funds?" she suddenly asked. Silence followed on the other end of the phone. "Why would you do such a thing?" she demanded. "At first, I only intended to borrow it," he finally admitted. "I planned to pay it back. But the investments failed, then I tried to recover with another investment, and sank deeper." "How much?" $700,000. Jennifer gasped. "You're insane." "Help me, Jenny," Robert pleaded. "If the company finds out, I'll go to prison." "What do you want from me? To become an accomplice?" "No, just. I need time. To solve everything." Jennifer ended the conversation and hung up. She stared out the window for a long time. One decision was taking shape. The next day, Jennifer took a significant step. Without Robert knowing, she had arranged to meet with the chief financial officer of his company. "Coming here wasn't easy for me," she began explaining in the office. "But there are things you should know about the situation my husband is involved in." She presented the evidence and explained Robert's actions. The CFO's face grew severe as the story progressed. "These are serious accusations, Mrs. Morrison," he finally said. "An investigation will be necessary." "I understand," Jennifer said. I'll cooperate. When she left the office, she felt mixed emotions of guilt and relief. Had she betrayed her husband? Or had he betrayed her and their daughter? That evening, Robert called. His voice trembled with anger. "Why did you do this?" he demanded. "The company called me in. They said an internal audit has begun." "You made your own choices, Robert," Jennifer said calmly. "Your decisions brought us here. I could go to prison. That's your responsibility. If that happens, I won't be able to pay child support," he threatened. "There won't be money for Ava either. That's why I'm going to set conditions," Jennifer said. "If you guarantee sufficient child support and financial support for our daughter, I'll be more lenient in my testimony. Otherwise..." The negotiations continued for several days. Eventually, Robert agreed. He would try to reach a settlement with the company and cooperate as much as possible to avoid criminal charges. In return, he would establish a trust fund for Ava and guarantee Jennifer an appropriate division of property. A month later, Jennifer was signing divorce papers at the law firm. 12 years of marriage officially came to an end. "How do you feel?" Carol asked. Strangely, liberated, Jennifer smiled. "It's been a long road, but I finally feel like I can move forward." That evening, she was having dinner with Ava. "I got a letter from Dad," Ava said. "He said he's sorry. And he hopes someday I can forgive him." Jennifer took her daughter's hand. "Time heals all wounds, honey. For now, let's think about us. A new beginning." Outside the window, the first signs of spring were beginning to appear. A new season, a new beginning. For the first time in a long while, Jennifer could see a bright future. Morrison Estates, Jennifer Morrison speaking. Jennifer was answering the phone while looking out at the vibrant city view from the large window of her new office. On her desk were neatly arranged documents from recently completed deals. On the wall hung a certificate for Annual Best Real Estate Agent. 1 year later, Jennifer's life had changed dramatically. She had left her previous company and established her own agency. Morrison Estates had quickly established a reputation and become an important player in the local real estate market. "Mom, look." As she hung up the phone, the office door opened, and 13-year-old Ava rushed in. With a bright, radiant smile, she was waving her school report card. "All excellent." Jennifer smiled as she looked at her daughter's grades. "That's wonderful, honey." Ava looked around her mother's successful office with interest. "I was looking forward to coming here with Martha today." "Where is she?" Jennifer asked. "Waiting at reception. I showed her my report card too." Jennifer smiled. Martha was still an important part of their lives. More like a family member now than a babysitter. "Let's go for the celebration dinner as promised." Jennifer stood up and tidied her desk. As they were about to leave, the phone rang. Jennifer hesitated for a moment when she saw the caller ID. "Robert?" Ava asked. Jennifer nodded. "Did you know Dad would be calling?" "He told me. He said he knows report cards come out today." Jennifer answered the phone. "Hello, Robert. Is Ava there?" His voice sounded gentler than before. "Yes, she just came from school. Can I talk to her a bit?" Jennifer looked at Ava. Her daughter shrugged and nodded. "Hi, Dad." Ava took the phone. "All excellent. Thank you. Well, maybe next time." After a brief conversation, Ava returned the phone. "Dad wants to talk to you, Mom." Jennifer put the phone to her ear. "Yes." "About the necklace," Robert began. "I've contacted Mr. Lang in Boston. He's apparently considering selling. If you want, I can arrange to buy it back." Jennifer was momentarily speechless. "Why?" As part of making amends, he said quietly. There's a lot I can't recover, but at least this might be returned. All right. Tell me the details. She ended the conversation and placed the phone down, deep in thought. What did Dad say? Ava asked. I'll tell you later. Come on, let's go meet Martha. Robert Morrison's life had changed dramatically. After serving a light sentence, he had been released, but had completely lost his credibility in the financial industry. He now worked as a front desk clerk at a motel in a small town. It was a modest, solitary life. His other family had abandoned him too. After learning the truth, Amanda had returned to her parents' home in Ohio with her son. Robert regularly sent child support and occasionally called his son, but he couldn't restore their previous relationship. His world had collapsed. But from those ruins, he was re-examining his actions. 2 weeks later, a small package arrived at Jennifer's house. What's this? Ava asked with a curious expression. Jennifer opened the package and took out a Victorian diamond necklace. Her grandmother's necklace. Do you know what this necklace is? Jennifer asked her daughter. It belonged to great-grandma, right? I've seen it in photos. Yes. It's been passed down through generations. Jennifer placed the necklace around her daughter's neck. And now, I'm passing it on to you. Ava gazed at herself in the mirror, touching the diamond sparkling at her neck. Really? But isn't this yours, Mom? It's ours, Jennifer smiled. A symbol of our strength. Ava hugged her mother. Thank you, Mom. Outside the window, the sunset was painting the city golden, as if promising a new day, a new beginning. Let's get ready, Jennifer stood up. Carol is coming for dinner tonight. They left the room hand in hand. The shadows of the past were still there, but they no longer dominated them. Jennifer and Ava were beginning a new chapter in their lives with strength and determination.